Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the August 26, 2024 Hilliard City Council regular meeting to order. Mr. Betts will provide the invocation, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we come together again this evening, as decision makers who were chosen by our fellow citizens, let us be reminded that we are all members of a team. Regardless of whether any one of us would have chosen any of the others as team members, the fact remains, we are a team, brought together by our fellow citizens in the democratic processes that we all hold dear and which are the foundations of our great city, our great state, and our great nation. Therefore, as we deliberate in this meeting and in all future meetings, let us always remember that we were chosen by the people to work as a team to do the people's work, to faithfully execute the two basic functions of government, protecting our fellow citizens from all forms of harm and empowering those same citizens individually and collectively as a community to reach their full potential. My hope for this team is that we, both as individual leaders and as a collective body of leaders, always lead with empathy for each other, for our amazing city staff, and most of all, for the citizens of this great city whom we have all taken a solemn oath to serve. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dee, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Betts?
Here.
Mr. Carrier? Here. Ms. Cole?
Here.
Ms. Hale?
Here.
Vice President Teeter?
Here.
Ms. Vermillion?
Here.
President Catone?
Here. Council has copies of the June 28, 2024 Council Retreat Report and the July 8, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Are there any changes or corrections? Okay, hearing none, these minutes stand approved. We will go into commission and board reports. First up, Board of Zoning Appeals, Emily Cole.
We've continued with our monthly meetings and otherwise no report.
Thank you. Destination Hilliard, Greg Betts.
The main event coming up here between now and our next meeting is the For the Love of Hilliard event, which will take place on September 7th, Saturday, downtown. So I hope everyone can attend.
Thank you. Environmental Sustainability Commission, Cynthia Vermillion.
We have another recycling shredding day coming up in October, Friday, October 18th. It will be in the morning, and I believe it's going to be out here in the operations area.
Thank you. MORPC, Ms. Crandall.
No updates this evening, thank you.
Planning and Zoning Commission, Emily Cole.
Similar, we've continued with our monthly meetings and otherwise no report.
Public Arts Commission, Cynthia Vermillion.
We have some awesome artwork in our packet today.
Great, thank you. Recreation and Parks Advisory Commission, Peggy Hale.
Yeah, so Jen and I got to tour the well. It was super exciting. There's lots of progress going on. The fields are looking good. They had drone footage so we could see the parts that we didn't actually walk to. Super, super exciting that it'll open about a year from now, correct?
I think the mud's dried on my boots from that visit now. Shade Tree Commission, Andy Teeter.
No report.
Aging in Place Committee is me. We have been on a summer vacation and we'll meet again on September 10th. Okay. There are 3 presentations this evening. The first one is very popular with council and is a proclamation for National Service Dog Month. Excuse me. I'll read this now. Whereas the City of Hilliard believes in inclusivity for all community members and in the joyful, transformative power of the human canine bond, and whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability, and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited training programs exist nationwide, and less than 1% of individuals with disabilities who could qualify have a service dog, and the need is growing. And whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships, and whereas service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence and can also give support and a sense of calm for daily emotional and psychological stresses, whereas National Service Dog Month aims to honor, raise awareness, and educate our community about the benefits of task-trained service dogs and the laws protecting them, and whereas the City of Hilliard is devoted to raising awareness and showing appreciation for the extraordinary work service dogs do every day for the people and the care of our community. Now, therefore, I, Tina Catone, President of Hilliard City Council, and on behalf of City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of September as National Service Dog Month in the City of Hilliard, and encourage all residents to celebrate service dogs and be respectful of the rights afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. So with us tonight, we have Nancy Whetstone, who is going to say a few words, and she has some guests that then she will introduce.
Thank you, Tina. I'm so delighted to be here tonight and accept this proclamation from my home city of Hilliard. Canine Companions is the nation's oldest and largest service dog organization. 1 in 4 accredited service dogs is a Canine Companion service dog. Yet in the city of Hilliard, we have very few clients and even fewer volunteers. So I'm super excited tonight to introduce some volunteers and one of our staff members that will introduce some wonderful dogs to you and tell you a little bit more about our mission. So I'd like to invite Elizabeth Bouton, Marty Marlotte, and Natalie Koritzer to join us up here. And they're going to share a little bit about what they're doing for the organization and how you can get involved. Do you want them to speak in the mic, or can they just come up front and talk?
The public to hear, they have to speak into the mic.
Put the dog up on the podium.
I'm Elizabeth Boughton, and I am raising my 6th puppy for Canine Companions. I raised my first 2 as a college student at Ohio State, and I now work at Ohio State.
My name is Marty Marlatt, and this is Paola, and she is my 30th puppy. My 31st puppy is at home. Obviously, I love this organization. I started raising back in 1989 when I lived in Hilliard, and I have it's the hardest thing you'll ever love to do. We would really love to see some more puppy raisers join us.
I'm Natalie. I'm a trainer at Canine Companions. So after our volunteers are raising the puppies for about 1.5 years, they come to us and we teach them all of their advanced skills. So I brought Dugan with me today. He is about 3 months into his advanced training. So he's got about 3 to 6 more months to go. So he's still learning some things. But we were going to show you guys one of our most utilized skills, which is the formal retrieve. For clients who have dropped items, our dogs are trained to pick up a wide variety of different items. So I brought a little toy with me today because he's still kind of practicing different shapes and sizes of things. So he'll pick that up and show you guys what that looks like.
Good boy. Hey, look at him.
Did everyone see that, or do we need to have Natalie demonstrate it again?
Great.
So our dogs are task trained in 45 different commands, and One thing I failed to mention is that our dogs are provided free of charge to all of our clients. And not only do we provide the dogs free of charge to folks with disabilities, but we also have them stay out on our campus in New Albany for 2 weeks to be matched with the dog, to learn how to navigate the world with a service dog, and really to ensure the success of the team. Then we see our teams every 1 to 2 years for recertification to make sure everything is going well. And then we make a retirement plan for the dog and we start the process all over again. Our facility dogs are also working hard in Ohio in healthcare, law enforcement, and education settings, impacting about 5.2 million lives a year. So we're here. Visit us at www.canine.org. There's all kinds of information out there about advocacy, about the rights of service dog users, and how to apply or volunteer. Thank you.
Hold on, I have your proclamation for you here.
Clear. Here's the challenge, to get them to look at me, right? Instead of all looking to look at you. And puppies. Baby noises. Puppies. Thought she's gonna get out of it, didn't it? At least the people can look at me.
Feel sorry for anyone that has to follow that.
Good job.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm distracted now. Just not to belabor the point, but imagine if you're in a wheelchair and you drop something, you can't get it, right? So it's not just a fetch and get the toy back to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I dropped my keys or my pencil or, anyway. Sorry about that, I got a little excited. Okay, our second our second presentation is a public art mural application for Bagels. Director Merritt is going to present that.
Good evening, members of council. I'm here today as the Hilliard Public Art Commission received an application from Charis and Lo Yost of Bears Bagels, as well as artist Allison Pence. At the last meeting, they voted to approve, and then that's why you have it in your packet this evening. Charis Yost is here this evening if you'd like to ask him any questions. This will replace the mural on the side of that building that was aptly named Pizzatopia, with a very nice piece. So if you have any questions, we can ask Charis to come up.
Any questions?
No, it looks nice.
Yeah, that'll be great, thank you. All right, then next we have Public Arts Commission, Public Art Final Design.
This one's a little different. This was a, good evening, members of council. This one was a little different. It was commissioned by the Hilliard Public Art Commission in the city. We've actually been working on this project for over a year. This is just the final design. If you recall, we ended up entering into a contract with Andrew Lundberg, and he has passed along his apologies. He was going to be here this evening to discuss the final design, but was unable to at the last moment. So you have the different renderings of the final piece of artwork. I'd be happy to answer any types of questions you may have.
I seem to recall when it was presented several months ago, I think in December, the parts of it that are shown as, I can't remember the actual name of the color, but basically that sort of brownish color, were those supposed to be, I thought those were originally designed to be cutouts.
So you're very correct. Obviously, with this being the final design, when we met with him, there were some concerns addressed with him from the Hilliard Public Art Commission about the way that it was initially put together. Initially, it was supposed to have LED on the inside that was able to to change colors, creating a lot of crevices and things of that nature. And some of the questions or concerns that we brought up was the ability to get into the artwork, to change out the LEDs, to maintain it, making sure that it wasn't a safety concern. So the way that he addressed those issues is the design that is before you.
Okay, thank you.
Is it a flat surface now, or is the brown still recessed?
So the brown is on the inside. It is still the stainless on the outside. So it'll be water jet cut out, and he'll chamfer the edges so that if little ones make it into the bed, no harm or damage will come. It's pretty sturdy, pretty thick. It won't collect water on the inside. It's open on the inside with light coming from the out.
Okay, but there'll be a space between the stainless and between the underneath.
It'll be put meshed together on the backside, mounted together, and then that way, if we ever need to, if something were to happen, we're able to take a panel off and correct it.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Dee, could you call for a voice vote on both pieces of art?
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes?
President Catone?
Yes.
Mr. Carrier?
Yes.
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
President Teeter?
Yes.
Okay, that was for both? Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. All right, are there any changes to the agenda? I see none. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. I will read those. First is TRFO liquor permit C1, C2, and D6, 3575 Main Street. No objections were received, and this is to not request a hearing. That door. Okay. The second is 24R66, reappointing members to the Hilliard Lakes Community Authority Board of Trustees. And the third is 24R67, accepting roadway, sanitary sewer, and stormwater management basin public improvements for the Clara Drive Extension in sub-area C2 of the Ants Mill Planned Unit Development. Would anyone like any of these items moved to the regular agenda for further discussion?
President Catone, I would like to note that on the transfer of ownership for the liquor permit, it was due today, and we requested an extension that was extended and approved. So that was in your packet too, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. All right, no changes? Then I entertain a motion and second to approve the consent agenda items by voice vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. All right, this is the public portion of the meeting. Has anyone signed up to speak on any subject? I have 2 people here. Sandra Hooker, sorry. You have 3 minutes. You're welcome.
We can bring it out to you so that the public can hear what it is.
I can see it. Okay. Good evening, Hilliard. My name is Sandra Hooker. I am a state of Ohio ambassador for change against distracted driving and crosswalk laws. I am advocating to change the culture of our state, beginning at the local level, to promote a more preventive measure to reduce distracted driving. I also want to advocate for more harsh penalties and more rigid enforcement against distracted driving to make the motorists more responsible for their action behind the wheel while driving. I am here to raise awareness for our citizens and pedestrians of the danger of distracted driving. Everyone should understand there is no justice for injuring a person. Taking your eyes off the road for whatever reason can cause you to drive distracted. The drivers should pay a higher penalty for their action. Distracted driving is a dangerous and cause catastrophic injuries and paralyzation. These type of injuries can be long-lasting, and you may never heal from it. Drivers need to slow down and be accountable for their actions when driving. Those who drive distracted cause bodily injuries to others and should be prosecuted to the fullest degree of the law. The law needs to be changed to benefit the injured person and not the motorist. I propose to ask you to raise your penalties at the local level from $150 to $750, second degree misdemeanor, and the first degree misdemeanor, $1,000. And if an injured person results in death or paralyzation. Taking care of a paralyzed person is hard and forever and time-consuming and exhausting. I know. I don't need an apology from the distracted driver. I need accountability. This is a serious issue. People are dying on our roads, on our streets, as a result of distracted driving. Crossroad crashes are at an alarming high, and people need to slow down and pay attention when they are driving behind the wheel. This dangerous issue needs all tools available to prevent and reduce this bad behavior and habits of distracted drivers. I really want to make it a criminal crime. The current penalties is nothing but a slap on the wrist for drivers who cause bodily harm to a human being. The motorist is charged only $150 and no justice to their actions. This is not acceptable. Well, that's all I'm gonna. But anyway, I'm from Grove City, and we have already changed our laws. To $750 because $150 is not enough justice for what the driver, have done. So I'm asking Hilliard, and I have been traveling from city to city, making awareness of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hooker. Okay. Thank you so much. And second, we have Chelsea Melcher.
I just signed up in case there were any questions about mine, but I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll move into the business of council. We have 3 first readings. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 2417 by title only?
Appropriating funds for the Intelligent Community Forum on-site Top 7 audit, certification, and delegation expenses for the ICF Summit in Barcelona in November.
Would a council member like to motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a staff report? Oh.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council. As you're aware, we received Smart 21 and Top 7 recognition, which puts us in the running for the #1 intelligent community in the world. And this This appropriation would cover our ICF visit that just happened this last week, everything that was a part of that. We also asked for a certification process this year, so as the auditor was in town for the ICF visit for the top 7, he also gathered information to give us certification and a detailed report back of where we excel and where we may need to work on things within the ICF protocol. And then also for 3 staff members to be able to attend the summit in Barcelona in November. So I can answer any other questions that you may have related to that.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? All right, no questions. Second reading on ordinance 2417 will be Monday, September 9, 2024. Will the clerk read ordinance 2418 by title only?
Amending Chapter 190 of the city's codified ordinances to update the comprehensive fee schedule.
Would a council member like to motion and second?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Rowley?
Good evening, members of council. You have 2 pieces of legislation on a first reading here tonight that should be probably read in concert with one another. The first of those is 2418 and the second is 2419. The 2418 updates Chapter 190, which has various fees that we use for permitting in the city of Hilliard. And I wanted to kind of go through the notable changes to that and then highlight how these 2 dovetail together. First, among the notable changes is there is a double fee language that's been added to this Chapter 190. Building permits already had a double fee, so if a contractor, for example, was starting work without obtaining a permit, the chief building official at his discretion could apply a double fee. That's something that has occurred less than a handful of times in the last year. But what we have noticed is that we've got work going on in the right-of-way and also some oversized haulers that have essentially done work in advance of obtaining a permit. And so we wanted a broader language that we could apply to other permit types that are within Chapter 190. Second, we wanted to note that this would eliminate a fee for residential roof replacement. If any of you have had this kind of work done in the last couple of years, you'll probably remember that the roofer that you used actually did a full replacement of your roof. So they tear off the shingles first thing in the morning, typically start as soon as the sun comes up, and then you have a new roof by the end of the day. If you went back a couple of decades, or even maybe a little bit more recently than that, the tendency was to actually put a roof over existing shingles in many cases. Not always, but sometimes. And with that change, much of the quality of work seems to be driven by the warranty that the shingle manufacturers have, that the installers have. And we've really not seen a large need. As we went through COVID, we changed the inspection process to photographs, and then subsequently, because the work is done so quickly, just didn't see a large need for having this permit type retained in here. We would still have a commercial roofing permit, but not the residential if this went forward. Third, I just want to note that for the hauling permits, we've added language that would allow us to recoup staff time, particularly for oversized loads where we have to move infrastructure. This is a problem that we've only recently encountered with Amazon bringing in some of these supersized loads where we had to move various traffic lights, things like that, in order to get the vehicle down the street. And we just want to have a language there that allows us to recoup that staff cost. Fourth, there's language in here that would allow us to add an additional fee for ground signs to cover the review by our chief building official. This is a relatively recent change with how ground signs are reviewed, but in a close review of the building code, it appears that we need to have our chief building official reviewing those in addition to our planning staff. Fifth, on the bottom of page 9 of 13, I appreciate the careful reading of some of you here. There's a typographical error that I wanted to note on the third plus table plus postponement language. It was not our intent to eliminate that fee, but only rather to cross out one little box there, and we'll make that update for the second reading. And then finally, I wanted to note probably the largest change in how this dovetails with the second ordinance that's before you this evening, We have essentially struck out language that talks about how capacity fees are measured, not by tap size, but really about the largest of either the tap size, the meter size, or the downstream service line. And this is a situation that happens really only with communities or developments where there's a master meter that is employed, so private water lines downstream from the meter. And what we've seen and what we've actually done in recent years through our engineering design standards is to assess those charges based on the largest of those diameters, because we were frankly seeing some developers trying to game that capacity fee schedule a little bit and upsize the line as soon as it went through the meter, which does give them some additional capacity and really kind of defeats part of the purpose of the capacity fee schedule. So this would make the change both in Chapter 190 as well as in the second ordinance before you, 945. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions?
Dan, does the change affect those developers that are already currently doing what they're doing and they're upsizing already?
We have, for the last couple of years, been enforcing language in the engineering design manual that says that you are going to be charged based on the largest diameter. And so with Carr Farms, with Amazon, some of the other more recent master meter, MI has a master meter portion in Hill Farms. They have all paid based on the largest diameter of whatever they have chosen.
Why are they doing the master metering?
Because they have private streets, and the city of Columbus requires that water lines are within public right-of-way. And in those situations, you have to have a private water system as a result.
Okay, thank you.
I think the other reason, to answer your question maybe more fully, is that they're essentially trying to shave costs. That by putting in, for example, one 8-inch meter in some situations, it's cheaper than putting in lots of individual house meters.
That's okay.
Any other questions, Peggy? Microphone.
Under Exhibit A, thank you. It talks about economic development and fees decreased or waived. And so it sounds like the city manager and the city can waive up to $10,000 for economic development. Have we done that before? And can you give me an example, please?
Yeah, we did it for the junction, so the building back on Franklin Street. When that building was being redeveloped, there was a pretty complicated situation that arose with the city of Columbus about that water line, which we had always assumed was a private service because it was only 3/4 of an inch. That they determined, because it was in public right-of-way, getting back to the previous question, needed to be considered a public main. And when it broke during construction and it needed to be upsized, part of that process is they discovered lead joints in there, and some of the additional fees that were associated with upsizing were waived as part of that for economic development purposes. Another example that came up more recently was the property on Roberts Road that the city owns. In order to facilitate that building connecting to sanitary sewer, the fees were waived for that as well.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions, Emily?
Thank you. I know I emailed a couple of questions and you answered some of them, but I had some questions around the fee doubling. Who specifically would that apply to most often? Is it developers, homeowners, businesses?
Yeah, our chief building official, Mike Halsey, is here with us tonight, but when we went back, that fee has not been applied to homeowners. We've done it to contractors less than a handful of times in the last year. And really, frankly, the contractor should probably know that they need to obtain a fee. As I mentioned, the situation that's come up, and part of the reason for the language change was really related to things outside of the building sphere, so hauling permits and work within the right-of-way, which we've been really trying to get a better handle on. And when they perform work without obtaining a permit, we really don't have any advance notice of what's occurring.
Okay, so it's not like I choose to add on a deck and I start work and then you hit me with a double fee?
That's not how it has been applied. We went back and looked and we could not remember an instance where it applied to a homeowner, individual homeowner doing that work.
But if it applies to a contractor, the cost will go to the homeowner.
Yeah, although I think you as a homeowner, particularly if you were paying the fee, would have a legitimate gripe if they tried to pass that on to you.
Okay. This is really helpful. Are we doing anything that's preventative as well, or is it just punitive, doubling the fee?
With the situation that I mentioned with regard to right-of-way, we've had communication with lots of the companies doing work within the right-of-way to ensure that they're aware of the standards that are in place. That has been communication that's gone on a regular basis. With building permits, the annual licensing process part of the effort of that is to ensure that contractors are aware of the standards within the city of Hilliard. And part of that communication inevitably is awareness, if you will, of needing to obtain a permit in different situations.
Okay. My last question was just around the estimated cost. So we say we're doubling fees. What is that?
I don't even want to give you an estimate. I mean, literally we looked and I think we saw 3 or 4 instances within the last year where we had doubled fees within the building realm. So if a permit averages $100, you're talking about less than $1,000 that was recouped. It's not an effort to gain some sort of monetary advantage. It's really trying to ensure that contractors, because we were really relying on them performing the work in a correct way, we're trying to check that, but that system really becomes much more difficult if they aren't following the rules right out of the gate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Second reading of Ordinance 2418 will be Monday, September 9, 2024. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 2419 by title only?
Amending and updating Chapter 945, the city's codified ordinances regarding water taps and capacity fees.
Would a council member like to motion and second? So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
As
Mr.
Dan
Rowley?
mentioned, this is a related
It's all done.
ordinance, so if you have any questions specific to this one, be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right. The second reading on Ordinance 2419 will be Monday, September 9, 2024. We'll move on to resolutions. Will the clerk please read Resolution 24R68 by title only?
Appointing members to the city's Environmental Sustainability Commission.
Would a council member like to sponsor and adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Is there staff report?
There are 3 reappointments and 2 new appointments to the ESC.
Any questions? Okay, will clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes.
President Catone?
Yes?
Mr. Carrier?
Yes.
Vice President Teeter?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Resolution 24R68 has passed and is in effect at the earliest date allowable by law. Clerk, please read Resolution 24R69 by title only.
Approving an appointment to the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee, RPAC.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Good evening, members of council. This is for a 3rd edition senior Anna Burdick from Hilliard Darby High School. We passed, updated an ordinance, right before your break. So this is the earliest that we could bring her nomination to you guys.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, would clerk please call the roll?
Vice President Teeter?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Carrier?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes.
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
President Catone?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Resolution 24R69 has passed and is in effect at the earliest date allowable by law. Will the clerk please read Resolution 24R70 by title only?
Authorizing the city manager to prepare and submit an attributable fund application to the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, MORPC, to assist in funding the LEAP Road South Improvements, CIP T-164, and to execute agreements as may be required.
Thank you. Would a council member like to sponsor and adopt?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of
Bishop.
City Council. I'm excited to bring this legislation forward to hopefully bring us one step closer to potentially funding this really important project in the city of Hilliard. The Leap Road South project, the limits are Cemetery Road on the north end and just north of Scioto Darby Road at our corporation limit on the south end. This project has been in the works for a number of years. In your packet on page 166 of 193, I kind of went through the background of how we got to the project that we're here today to submit on. We looked at 3 different options, kind of a low, medium, and high, and really because of the age of the infrastructure along that road, it really prompted us to go forward with the larger project. The estimated cost is in the realm of $10 million, so not something that we could reasonably fund ourselves as a whole project. So that's why we're here today to request your authorization to submit an application for federal funds. So I've talked before about different types of funding sources, and federal funds are where you want to go after these larger projects. It really makes it worth the while. It is a long project because there's about 75 parcels of land that would need to be acquired to be able to do this project. So the timeline for the federal funds really works out nicely. There's been some questions from Ms. Hale as well as Mr. Carrier in the past of what's Plan B, what if we don't get this funding? So this is a very competitive process. So whether we get funded through this or not is questionable. The other option to fund this project would be through the Link Us initiative that CODA is putting on the ballot in November. If that ballot issue passes, the Leap Road project would be funded by about half of the overall costs through that. So we have 2 different options that we're looking for to fund this project. If either one of these funding options or both come through, then obviously the project would move forward and we would begin the process to bring on a consultant to help us with design at the beginning of 2025. If it does not, if neither passes, or either we do not get funded through MORPC attributable funds or the Link Us initiative does not pass, we've kind of batted this around internally within our group of how do we move forward on this really expensive project. Our recommendation is to start into design and get us to maybe a 30% range. That might identify a way that we could potentially phase this project. Either, if you look naturally, the project limits, you could probably split it into half at Edgewin and Jeanette. It's not ideal to do that type of a project split, but that would be one way to kind of spread out costs, So I think there's a couple different options, but we really need to start to design the entire project because things like drainage need to be figured out for the entire corridor, and that might drive what comes first. So I'm happy to answer any other questions anyone has about the project.
Cynthia?
Thank you for the presentation. So we would know on this federal grant by when?
So we would know unofficially around December. That is when the ranking of projects and the recommendations go out. Actually, the recommendations for public comment go out in early January. But usually there aren't significant changes that come out of that public process. So I would say we would know about this by second week in December, and we would obviously know about the Link Us ballot initiative in early November.
Would a third option, if those 2 don't work out, be the state? I don't know if the state offers any grants or anything.
So there are other funding sources like OPWC. That is a state funding source. For those types of grants, you really need to be closer to your construction time frame because when you get that a grant as an award, you need to start construction within a year of the award. So we could not apply for those funds now. We'd need to be closer to being ready to actually go to construction. So it would be potentially an option, but probably not an option at this stage of the game. But a couple years down the road, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Greg?
Thank you, Letty. So you said that the Link Us initiative, if we were approved for that, that would be about half the cost, correct? If we were approved for the federal funding, would that be close to all of it?
Well, it depends. The attributable funds application decisions, you don't find out about those until after Link Us passes. So what I could see happening, right now we're competing with 4 other projects in this category. And I would say 4 of the 5 projects, so 5 including ours, are really good projects. So I could see a situation where they're ranking these 5 projects, and let's say normally only the first one would get funded. But if number 1, 2, and 3 are willing to take a lesser amount than what they requested, and if it's supplemented partially through Link Us, that it might be an opportunity for the funds to get spread around to more communities. So I would doubt, quite frankly, that if both pass, let's say we rank number 1, and let's say Link Us passes, I would be surprised if we got 100% funding.
Thank you.
Any other?
If we don't get the grant this year, is it something that we could reapply for in years to come?
Yes, absolutely. It's a every other year cycle, but the problem is right now we are in the running for construction dollars that aren't available until 2030. So if we wait 2 years and apply in 2026, we'd be looking for construction dollars in 2031 or 2032. So most of these federal dollars are committed out a number of years because, again, these are large projects. It takes years to bring them to a point where they're ready to go to construction.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? So I do have a question, though. And what is the overall timeline? So now you just presented that even if we get the money, we probably wouldn't start until 2030?
So, you're in our capital budget that will be coming to you soon. I will have that laid out. If I remember correctly, we're looking at, let's assume we're funded, we would actually have grant agreements that would get signed by the city manager in spring, early summer of 2025. So design would be 25 and 26, more than likely. 27 and probably part of 28, early part of 28 would be right-of-way acquisition. And so construction realistically would probably be in 29 or 30.
And then how long do you think the construction would take? A couple of years?
At least 1 full year. Quite frankly, there's a lot of sequence that would have to happen. Again, if we would the water line is over 70 years old, that may have to get done first. We may have to tie in everybody's service lines into their house. That project alone, just doing the water line, could be a year's project, and relocating utilities, and then this could come in after. So it's probably one of the more, these reconstruction projects are really complicated, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. It could take a couple of years of construction.
Thank you very much. Emily? Les?
Letty, thank you very much for giving this presentation. I've met with Manager Crandall and discussed this and about what's the way we can get to our older neighborhoods where we've had a lot of, let's just face it, long-time deferred maintenance. We've kind of just looked the other way. And now when you look at the city's financials and where we are, and we're all very proud of where we are, I'm going to advocate pretty strongly in the CIP that we take a look at where our spend currently is versus something like this project. If you look at how we're spending dollars, there's an incredible amount of money on the western edge. Cosgray, both ends, the circles. Jeffrey Lynn, looking at a circle there, around about there. And you just look down Cosgray Road and see how much money we're dumping there versus what we're doing in our older neighborhoods. We did start to step up with the sidewalks, but now I think we owe it in those older neighborhoods to start looking at dedicating some significant, serious resources into those older areas. And that's just my perspective. It's just one perspective. There's many of them out there, I'm sure. But so when the budget comes, I'm going to ask for a breakdown of showing where those dollars have been flowing in the past and where they currently are scheduled to flow. And I think you'll see the stark issue that I'm raising tonight, that this project needs to be moved up the food chain, up the ladder. So just my 2 cents for what it's worth, and I hope you guys will listen, and hopefully we can make some inroads, because these grants, they're hit or miss, depends on the feds, depends who's running what, and we really need to address it, whether they're going to help us or not. Just my humble opinion. Thanks for listening.
Does anyone have a question?
Can I ask one more?
Yes.
Are any of the grants retroactive? If we did move something up in the budget, could we still apply for the grant and then use that to pay off the debt if we needed to?
No, it doesn't work that way. We can't, if we would wait 2 years, let's say we don't get funded this year, and we would move forward 2 years from now, there's still, the dollars are for construction and later dates. So, but you will see in the capital budget, we are putting money in for this project to begin design. So it's a long project. It can't be designed in 6 months or anything like that. So we are starting to program it to be able to move the project forward, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get funding.
Okay, no more questions. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Carrier?
Yes.
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes?
President Catone?
Yes?
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Vice President Teeter?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Resolution 24R70 has passed and is in effect at the earliest date allowable by law. Will the clerk please read Resolution 24R71 by title only?
Authorizing the conditional use for art, music, dance studios at 4786 Davison Road, known as Red School of Music, within the RR Rural Residential District.
Would a council member like to sponsor and adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Staff report. Mr.
Good evening, members of council. This is a conditional use request for the property at 4786 Davidson. This is currently a residential property. This went before the Planning Commission back in July. So you can see the site on the north side of Davidson across from the Tremont Club, and this is a close-up. The Planning Commission reviewed this, made a positive recommendation 5-0. The applicant is intending to convert some of the rooms of the home to music classrooms for individualized instruction. And as part of that, they'll be upgrading the parking lot to provide some additional parking spaces that are required by the code. That is being addressed through the zoning certificate process, as well as some upgrades to the inside through the building permit process. But again, the commission recommended this positively 5-0, and I'd be open to any questions.
Any questions? Cynthia?
So what is the current zoning?
Right now, it is zoned R, which is the rural residential district.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
What's the comprehensive plan have of that overlay for that property?
That I would have to check.
There we go. Let the big gun up. Look out.
It has a portion of that is residential, and then at the area close to this, including some of this, is neighborhood commercial. So there is a node of neighborhood commercial there on this site, but most of this land and what's north of it is recommended for residential.
So we would be going outside the comp plan if we approve this conditional use, correct?
No, it's consistent. Well, it's consistent with today's code. So it's consistent with the rural residential district that allows this type of conditional use.
But it's outside the current comp plan, correct, John? If you read our comp plan, those two conflict.
I don't think so. I think when you look at this area, it has an area that's recommended for residential use and for neighborhood commercial use. This type of facility would fit into both of those.
Fits into both. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
Ms. Hale? Mr. Carrier?
No.
President Catone?
Yes.
Vice President Teeter?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes?
Pass 6-1.
Resolution 24R71 is passed and is in effect at the earliest date allowable by law. Will the clerk please read Resolution 24R72 by title only?
Approving changes to the plan unit development concept plan for text for 1.944 plus or minus acres at 3799 Park Mill Run Drive as part of the Mill Run Plan Unit Development PUD plan and text to modify uses and development standards.
Would a council member like to sponsor and adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Carson?
Thank you again, members of council. This is a minor text modification for the site at 3799 Park Mill. As you can see, it's the former Damon's Restaurant site. What's proposed this evening is a minor change to the text. As far as the permitted uses, this would include overnight dog boarding, dog daycare, and associated dog runs. And then there are also some additional standards that have been modified. The first being an addition to the text that would allow the existing parking lot at the north end of the site to remain as is. And then number 8 in the text, outdoor dog runs has been included with some standards so that they're screened from view with either a fence or landscaping. And then there's also some limitations on when that particular area can be utilized. And with that, I'd open up to any questions.
Emily?
Thank you. You want to go first? Okay. Have you notified the neighboring properties and heard anything back?
As with all the planning commission cases, everybody within 400 feet is notified. We did not receive any feedback from anyone.
There's no concern about noise?
Again, we notified everybody according to the zoning code requirements. Nobody responded to us or showed up at the meeting to testify.
Do you all as staff have any concerns about like noise?
No, in this particular area, given the interchange noise, the limitations that they have to restrict that between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. With the hotels, we think that that's going to be a compatible use.
Andy?
But my question was going to be about the restrictions, and you said 9 to 7?
Yes, there's a specific instruction in the text that would prohibit it between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So those are generally consistent with nuisance hours.
Not with my sleeping habits.
Cynthia?
So how much noise usually comes from within a kennel? I'm not that familiar with kennels.
Mm-hmm.
In general, the way the building's built, you shouldn't really hear any noise from internally. We can certainly ask the applicant that's here, as to the level of noise from the outdoor dog run, if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Madam. Brought Kevin Tennant here. He's the corporate rep for K9 Resorts. He can hopefully answer any questions you have as to sound, noise, what have you. With that, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Kevin Tennant. I'm Vice President of Franchise Operations with K9 Resorts. Specifically to your question, ma'am, about the sound, our construction is very involved with multi-zones throughout the building, and within each of those zones we use a material called Acoustablock, which is a barrier that is between the studs and the sheetrock and then the finishings on either side, so that restricts any noise coming through the walls to bleed outside of any other areas of the building, and also bleeding outside of the building. To reduce noise from carrying over throughout the building, each of those walls are built from the floor up to the roof deck, and we also use acoustical tile that also mitigates any sound bleed throughout other areas of the building. As it relates to outdoor noise, in the play yard, we use a fence called BuffTech, and it absorbs 98% of direct sound waves that are attracted to it. This material, this fencing, is also used in highway projects to do sound blocking from residential areas. And that fence is an 8-foot fence, solid fence, so there is no sound bleed through that fence. So when you imagine an 8-foot fence and an average dog is 2 feet from the ground, very little noise carries over that fence. But we have operations in place where our pet care techs will bring, if there's a rowdy dog or the group itself is rowdy, they will be brought inside the facility to not disturb the neighborhood.
Have any of your current facilities had any noise complaints?
None at all. Actually, specifically our flagship location, the first location that opened in 2005, we have numerous letters from the area commending our operations, that it does not disrupt the neighborhood. And we have neighbors literally right behind our location. And that facility is 15,000 square feet and has quite a high capacity. And when you're in that parking lot, you do not hear any dogs barking. So,
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Just curious, it's right. How many franchises do you guys have total?
So we have 34 open locations right now, with about 150 in various stages of development.
Wow. How many locally, Central Ohio?
There's one in Ohio in North Olmsted that's been in operation since January of this year.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
Peggy.
All right, thanks. So in what I was reading in tonight's packet, it said there could be fencing or landscaping, but are you telling us there will be fencing that's 8 foot tall with this buffer in it?
Yes, we will always have fencing. I believe the landscaping was to block the fencing, I believe. Is that correct, Randall?
We don't have a site plan since this is a text modification, but basically the dog run will be enclosed by the barrier that they've been discussing. There are code requirements for vehicular landscaping, so some of those requirements will also bleed around the edges of that. So there'll be landscaping on the outside as well as perimeter landscaping between the site and the interchange area.
Okay, and then I saw it mentioned that there could be a lot split. Is that still up in the air?
We have currently tabled that for right now, and with anticipation, if we did work out an agreement later on, we'd come back through the city for approval.
Okay, so right now, no lot split.
No lot split.
Okay, thanks.
I have a quick question. Have you ever lost a dog?
There have been very few dogs that have escaped the facility, but they have been retrieved within a few minutes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
I meant like got out, yeah.
My brain didn't go there,
Yeah,
so.
It didn't occur to me. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Vermillion?
Yes.
Vice President Teeter?
Yes.
President Catone?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes?
Mr. Carrier? Pass 7-0.
Resolution 24R72 has passed and is in effect at the earliest date allowable by law. This concludes the business portion of this meeting. Ms. Crandall, do you have any updates?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any items for council discussion? Cynthia.
I wanted to say a big thank you to the city, Letty. The roundabout over by the rec center, wow, I cannot believe how fast that thing is going up. And you did it without stopping traffic completely off of Cosgrave. No, it's really amazing. Yes, so thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, is there a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting? Second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Post same sign. This meeting is adjourned.